Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I'm your host, Ril Gerald Quinn, on this Wednesday, just 11 days before Christmas. And I know everybody out there is still running and ripping as far as their Christmas shopping. Hope everybody out there, be safe. This is a season where, of course, a lot of people don't have and they want what you got, even if they do have. If you know what I mean. So be safe out there. I am going solo tonight um, on this 860th episode of the Real Deal podcast. We got about three podcasts left this year. I was thinking about that. How many podcasts we have left for the year 2023? About three. I do have a special one coming up. That was unexpected. That will be I shouldn't say non-sports related. It won't be non-sports related. I will keep you posted on that. It could be dropping this weekend, possibly. We'll keep you posted on that. As always, we're going to begin with our themes. My theme for the week had to change this. Had to change this one up, but the theme for the week is I'm too old for this shit. We will flush this out, as you see. One time, Thomas Patrick Brady just taking a beating as Tampa Bay got destroyed by San Francisco. We'll kind of deep dive that ass whooping that they took at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. The thoughts, of course, Rob Sapp is not in tonight, but I still have all the thoughts for his Buffalo Bills. And I want to say, I think, and I have not spoken to Mr. Sapp about this game um, in detail, but I feel like this was the type of performance that he would be happy with, despite the fact that the Bills only had 232 yards of total offense. The bottom line is they put a beating on Mike White. He was sacked 4 times, took 8 quarterback hits. When your quarterback gets hit 8 times, that's a lot. 8 quarterback hits. You don't want your quarterback hurried 8 times. 8 hurries is a lot. 8 hits is that's you're asking your quarterback to get that. That's the type of shit that will knock your quarterback out the game. So they took he got knocked out once where I thought he was done. Got knocked out again, where he didn't have to leave the game, but it seemed like he was headed in that direction. So you can say what you want about Mike White. Don't ever question his toughness. He took a beating in this game. Um, 2 turnovers cost the Jets dearly in this game that we knew was going to be a defensive game. Again, you hold somebody to 232 yards, you probably should win the game. That was not the case. Buffalo, again, I think this is the type of win that Buffalo can get to the Super Bowl with this type of style. I think stylistically, the physical, knocking it, winning it with their defense, ran the ball enough. Not a lot of, not with pretty balanced with the run pass ratio. I think it was like 27 to 20, 27, 25. Not big numbers for Josh Allen. So, to Rob Sapp's point last week, they're not going to win with this. He doesn't care about the sexy fantasy stat numbers. That doesn't matter. Like that's not what is going to go win. Go deep. They're not going to go deep in the postseason playing like that. They're going to have to play a physical brand of football. This was a very physical game on both sides. Give the Jets defense a lot of credit for holding them in, for keeping them in the game. Um, Offensively, they just could not. Again, offensively, they moved the ball, but those 2 turnovers were killers. Um, Man, the Jets ever get if they they haven't got their hands on the quarterback. Their roster is set. They have some young weapons. Garrett Wilson is going to be a beast at the receiver position. They have young weapons on the receiving core in general. They have, a pretty good running game, a great defense. It's just, again, Mike White. Who knows? I don't know what listen. Mike White is I wouldn't. I don't think Mike White is a franchise quarterback. I think Mike White will be a guy to get you to your next guy. I think he's that. Like when we mentioned this last week, the Taylor Heineke's, Mike White's, and he's probably got more talent than Taylor Heineke. more throwing talent. But that's the type of quarterback he is. He's not a guy that is going to take you to that next level or a guy that you're going to win a Super Bowl with. Period. Not in today's NFL. The quarterback position is too deep as far as at the star position. It's too top heavy. Like you're talking with Mahomes and Burrow and Justin Herbert and what have you. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Mike White, Josh Allen, just to name a few. To a lesser extent, even somebody like a Tua. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Mike White. But I still think the Jets are still in position to make the playoffs. Still have things right in front of them. I did not expect them to win this game as Buffalo gets their revenge for an earlier defeat at the hands of the Jets, 20-12. Game of the week had to be I'm about to say the Clippers, the Chargers versus the Dolphins, 23-17. This was a physical game. This was a game that was dominated by the defenses from in terms of like just the physicality of it. But this game was really about one player and one player only, and that was Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's performance was one of the best quarterback performances of the year, to be honest with you. 39-51, 367 yards. He was just flat out. He was phenomenal. Like he was dominant in this game. Just the pocket presence, the ball placement, the leadership, making when his team needed the big pass for the big plays to be made, he made every big throw known to man. Contrary to what was happening with Tua, I don't know what's wrong with Tua right now. Last week I will chalk it up to San Francisco being a top defense, okay, and him getting knocked. And even with that, his accuracy for whatever reason has gone to shit over the last two games. This game, he's 10 for 28 for 145 yards. Like that, that's like Mark Brunell circa 2006 Washington football Commanders numbers. When Mark Brunell was played for the then Redskins. Like those are the type of numbers he was putting up that particular year, those years when he was, clearly past his prime as the quarterback. Struggling to crack 100 yards. I mean, I outside the big touchdown to Hill. I mean, that was he would if it wasn't for that touchdown, he would have been under 100 yards, passing. So I don't know what is wrong with Tua right now. The common denominator is the last two games have been big time pressurized games, right? So San Francisco, Miami, 425 game, big, the not, basically a national game from a standpoint of game of the week, national game. And this game, you had obviously Sunday night football, everybody watching national televised game. So I don't know if the lights have gotten too big for two of the last 2 weeks, which I would kind of find hard to believe, considering like he lived in big games in Alabama. It's not like his guy played in a couple of national championships, played, in LSU, played in a big LSU game. Like, it's Alabama. You're playing big games every week. You're on national television just about every single week. So I don't know what his deal is. Watching that game or rewatching the game, especially in the all 22 format on the NFL app, just was missing. Just again, inexplicably missing passes. It's not like the Chargers pass rush was all over them. They weren't. They were not. I would say Herbert might have took more hits than Tua, to be honest with you, which makes Herbert's performance that much more spectacular. But I don't think the Chargers, again, they're without Joey Bosa. I don't think the Chargers did anything from a strategic standpoint that bother to. I don't think that you could bother a quarterback's accuracy other than knocking him on his ass. You know what I'm saying? Like he made mistakes. He missed passes. He just missed them. Like I didn't see it. I know they had some coverage. It probably mixed up some of their coverages, things of that nature, things that NFL defenses do with adjustments and and what have you. But the bottom line is, with those core receivers, Miami can move the ball seemingly on anybody. Like I don't know if there's a strategy that that's been designed that can stop that offense from a tactical standpoint. What I will say is, and I'll continue to say this is they are missing a diversification of their offense. So if Tua is off, right, they don't have the physicality to where they can run the ball and can kind of compensate for Tua having an off game. Like the Bills, Josh Allen didn't play great in the game against in the game against the Jets. He was okay. He was okay. He didn't play great, but the Bills had have a running game when they choose to utilize it. That can be effective and that can knock another team on his ass. They have other ways they can win. So for example, the last two games, so Miami against San Francisco had 33 yards rushing. Okay, 33, right? And that game was relatively close up until the fourth quarter. I mean, San Francisco pulled away late in the fourth. They had 33 yards rushing in that game against the Chargers. Miami had, looking this up now, 92 yards rushing. Take away two is 28. Take away 20 to those that 28. So that's really what 60, 56, no more than that. It's not a lot. 19 carries. I mean, if you take away two, it's 28. Really, nobody. Tua really made like Mostert 11. Look, let's just look at their running backs. Mostert 11 carries, 37 yards. Jeff Wilson Jr. 4 carries, 26 yards. That's not like so. Not really effective. Minus Tua's running yards. So again, cannot. They cannot. Their offense is one dimensional. And Herbert did take more hits. I mean, Herbert got knocked around, sacked 4 times in that game. He was knocked around. But getting back to Miami offense, the Miami offense just cannot function if they are not like clicking out with the passing game. Like everything is predicated on the passing game. But the thing is, they don't have to be clicking on all cylinders at the passing game because they are so quick hitting that before you like they don't need a lot of plays. They don't need a lot of time to score. But these last 2 weeks, they scored 17 last week. They scored 17 this week. So this is an offense that was one of the highest scoring offenses in the league come before the San Francisco game. Now all of a sudden, struggling to put points on the board. Again, I will give you San Francisco because San Francisco has a great defense, legitimately San Francisco's number one defense in the league right now, and a dominant defense at that. Chargers, not so much. Like Chargers are not known for defense. They have some glitzy players, some players that can make plays. But remember, the thing about the Chargers, they were missing probably their two best defensive players, like Joey Bosa and Derwin James Jr. Those are two All-Pro caliber players that were not even playing in that game, and Miami can only score 17 points. So again, every team goes through this over the course of the season where the offense sputters for a game or two or maybe three. But for Miami, it's absolutely happening at the wrong time. Chargers, look, when you have that level of quarterback, Justin Herbert, you're always gonna have a chance. Like he looks completely he looks completely healthy now for the first time all season, and he put on a clinic in this game, an absolute clinic in terms of just just leading his team to a game that they had to have. Chargers had to have that game. They had to have that game in the worst way. So that guy is a problem. Um, when healthy and when he has his weapons, they're a problem. He's a problem. And they finally had Williams and Keenan Allen, both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They're eventually going to get back their tackle. Listen, Chargers. I never completely trust the Chargers because they find a way to do Charger shit and just fuck it up. But that team gets in the playoffs, man. Like that, they They have the type of talent that they're scary. They have scary talent. They have scary talent. And you have a guy in Herbert that does not have to take a back seat to really, from a talent standpoint, he doesn't have to take a back seat to any quarterback out there. I'm not saying he's not the best quarterback, but on a given Sunday in a playoff game, he could be the best player on the field. Like he's that good. He could be the best player on the field at any time, on any Sunday, in any game. Period. Games of note: Minnesota, Detroit. I had to start taking paying Detroit attention. They have won 5 out of the last 6 games. They take out Minnesota 34-23, avenging an earlier defeat at the hands of the Vikings early in the season. I think it was like week 3 or sometime during September, early in the season. So they split that series. Minnesota again is going to has run away with that division, but that's not the point. This is despite the fact that Kirk Cousins had 425 yards passing. Detroit's playing well right now. We know we are not a fan of on the podcast of Dan Campbell or Jared Goff. Period. But the bottom line is they have a top 5 offense in both yards and scoring. They had an excellent win at the Giants. Now this is a great win versus Minnesota. Even some of their losses have been close losses. Close loss on Thanksgiving to Buffalo. Um, the Philly game really wasn't as close as the score indicated, even though they only lost by 3 points. They've been competitive in most of their games. They played like one bad game or 2 bad games. They got smacked. Even the Minnesota game wasn't a blowout. New England game, they got embarrassed. That was their one, the 29-0 um 29-0 at New England. That was the stinker. That was the stinker. So it's like you gotta give them credit. You gotta give credit where credit is due. Even though I don't think they're, I don't think, I think I don't have faith going into next year about Detroit. And we've said this, and I'll continue to say it. Like I think we see teams get hot over the course of the season when you're 1-6, right? And your season's in the tank, it's not hard to play games. You can kind of play a little carefree, and you can kind of, it's like the pressure's somewhat off of the players from a standpoint. Now, coaches is one thing because coaches he's probably going to be on his way out, especially Dan Campbell. I don't think Dan Campbell survives another year of 2-15, 3-14 type of year. I don't. But as a player, you can go, like I said, you can kind of play carefree. You can have teams overlook you because your record's so bad. But give them credit. Listen, they've won some games. They've played well. They're in the thick of the playoff race. We'll discuss the playoff race later on in the program, and they are playing their best football at the right time. So you gotta give them credit. Minnesota is who I know they are. I wish Rob was on this podcast right now because I buried Minnesota last week, and oh my goodness, I never trusted Minnesota. I never will trust Minnesota. This team, you can't lose the Detroit Lions and think that and expect me to take you serious as a Super Bowl contender. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't do it. You can't lose to the Lions. I'm sorry. Anywhere. I have no faith in Minnesota whatsoever. Like I said, I would love right now, Washington is in the 6th spot and they would draw Minnesota. That would be the 2-6 matchup. I would love to play. I please. I don't care where to get the game. Of course, be at Minnesota, but please, if there's any team I would love to draw right now at the top, it would be the Minnesota Vikings. Someone's going to upset them because they're going to be at worst a 3 seed. They're going to be at worst a 3 seed, maybe even a 2 seed. They're not going. I don't think they're going to get the 1. I think Philly's probably going to end up getting the 1, but at worst they're going to be a 3 seed. So, you know, if you're in that 5 or 6 range, like Minnesota doesn't scare me one iota. Not one. Matter of fact, I want to play them. I want to play the Vikings. Please, as a fan of the Commanders, I want to play the Vikings. San Francisco, Tampa Bay. I have a lot on this game. It was a very telling game. San Francisco destroys Tampa Bay 35-7. And they this is a game where if I'm Tom Brady, he took a beating. You're watching Brock Purdy throw the ball all over the place. You are watching your team just disintegrate in front of you. 35 again, 35-7. This game was 28-0. It was over at halftime, in essence. This game was over at halftime. Despite the fact that San Francisco lost another star player, lost another one of the top players to an injury. Now, this is not bad as Garofalo, Debo Samuel to the high ankle sprain. It looked when it happened, and when it first happened, and when he has his head down on the cart, you're thinking like, yo, this his season's over. Like players know when they're seriously injured, but it turns out high ankle sprain. I'm guessing he's going to be back for the playoffs, but I'm guessing that they will hold him out until unless they have to win their last game. If they have to win their last game, he could probably return before the season's over with. But the bottom line, you will see Debo Samuel again. Thankfully for if you're a 49 fan. But the bigger thing is Tom Brady. And this is the first time where I think that if retirement was not going on in Tom Brady's head, then it had to re-enter his head during the course of this game. Because it's like I got however much money he has in the bank, hundreds of million dollars, 200 or 300 million, whatever. Seven Super Bowl rings. Five, like why am I for this? Like if we can't compete for Super Bowls, and this team, even if they do make the playoffs and win a division, which they probably will, this team is not a contender, and no one knows that more better than Tom Brady. No one. Like this team is just not. They're not going anywhere. Um, to me, if I'm Tom Brady, and I've heard some stuff like, could Tom Brady return to New England? Hell no. Tom. This will be a lot of Tom Brady's last team. I can't see Tom Brady being a mercenary now just to like I don't think Tom Brady's going to play on another team. Now I know that sounds crazy to say, considering that we wouldn't have thought that he would have played for Tampa Bay. Like we wouldn't have thought that like there was a time where we wouldn't have thought that that was a possibility. Okay, but I like at this point, at this stage of his career, at this stage of his life, um, you gotta ask yourself, man, you're 45 years old, you still got kids, you're like it's I just wonder if it's worth it to him. I mean, he's got his parents are getting older. Like all these things start to enter the equation of like, yo, what I'm doing all this work. I have no off season, sacrificing eating habits and food and all this stuff that I'm doing for this to get my ass kicked the week in and week out to take to for to score the 10 to 12, 14, 15 points, 17 points, 7 points, 3 points. Like part of the mindset Tom Brady is he could justify doing this because he always was going to be on a team that had a chance. And what I mean by having a chance, I'm not saying a chance to make the playoffs. I'm talking about a chance to win the Super Bowl, right? Chance to win it all. So, and you have to be a little deranged. I mean, a lot of these guys like Jordan, the Brady's, God rest the dead, Kobe Bryant. These guys were something were a little loose in the head here. They have this psycho mindset, right? Psycho time of trying to justify them pushing themselves to the limits that they do physically and mentally. Okay. So when you're doing that, and again, you see the results, I'm able to play. I'm able to be relatively healthy. I'm able to play longevity. Kobe Bryant played 20 years. Tom Brady, this is what, year 22. You can say to yourself, yeah, this is paying off. But now, at this moment, this is December 14th. At this very moment, I don't think Tom Brady could justify coming back for 2023 right now. Now again, he will not make he's not making a decision right now. The season still you still have the rest of the regular season, may have the playoffs for them, for Tampa Bay. But I I'm really thinking about if you gun in my head right now, I think Tom Brady will be. I think this will be Tom Brady's last season. I do. I really do. Um, Now, some of you can push back. You say, hey, he's in the midst of a divorce. Maybe that what else? If he's not committed to a marriage anymore, still has his kids. What else is he? Maybe he needs something to fill that void per se. If he's not going to do that, okay. Or this guy can't retire unless he falls off a cliff. I see. That's the thing about it, though. That's the thing that makes this tricky, right? Is Tom Brady the type that you're gonna have to drag him off the field, or is he the type that's gonna go out like you never see him just horrible, right? You never see him just play putrid. Can Tom like will Tom Brady go out like somewhat like what Kobe went out, like basically with the injuries, dragging himself to play these games, or Tim Duncan, who just said, you know what, I'm good. It's been real. Got the 5 chips, plenty of money. I'm cool. I don't know. I don't know. I think more than likely you're going to have to drag Tom Brady off the field. Like he's going to have to really suck to to be convinced that he should retire. And again, looking at his numbers, now I'll look up his numbers, and the numbers don't tell the story. I mean, he hasn't played well this year. He hasn't played that well. Uh, from a performance standpoint, should he retire? I mean, if I'm being fair, just on performance alone, I can make a case for him coming back. Just on if I was just talking about his performance, I could make a case for him. Like, yeah, he's not the worst quarterback, or he's not going completely off the cliff. I'll look up his numbers right now. Brady this year. I mean, Brady, look, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, that's not terrible. Like that, it, you know, like that's not terrible. That's not like he's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. He's going to have over 4,000 yards passing. So he could end up with 20 20 plus touchdowns and 6 or 7. Like that's not like that based off sheer performance. I can't say that he should retire based off sheer performance. But this franchise is not going anywhere. Like the team is not going to get any better with the cap situation, with some of the age they have on the team. He's not getting any better. Okay. We know that Todd Bowles is not a very good head coach. All right. So I think, you know, I think I think Tom probably is going to be done this year. Like I think that, and then again, they've had a rough season this year, but that game, there was something about that game. You're getting outplayed by Brock Purdy, um, yeah, and by a lot. Like it wasn't even close. Like Brock Purdy was clearly the best quarterback on the field in that game. Not even close in that game, particular game. Like sometimes you get these signs as an aging athlete to where it's like it might be that time. I have more on San Francisco. That was a tremendous performance by San Francisco, by the way. Like not to take anything away from what they did. Like they that this is a team that again they're going to be a major problem in the playoffs because they are a mentally tough, physical, big game, big time, big game team. They really are. Like they're playing just off the wall, off the charts football right now. At a very high level. The last 2 weeks, look at the last 2 weeks. Look at what they've done to Tampa Bay and Miami. Two teams that were playing relatively well coming into the game, especially Miami, and they took them apart, and they took Miami's offense apart. This is a scary team, and there was a time where when Garofalo went down, it was like there's no way they can make the Super Bowl. I'm not ready to say that. I don't think they will, but I'm not. If they're in the Super Bowl, I can't say I will be shocked. I can't. I just can't. I mean, we've seen. Listen, we've seen. Look, Jeff Hostetler made the Super Bowl with the Giants back in the day, so it's not like we haven't seen Nick Foles with the Eagles. Okay, and then the NFC is not strong this year. It's very much top heavy. The NFC top to bottom is not very strong. So 49ers are going to be there. Again, I would not want to see them at all in the postseason. Philadelphia, New York. This was a just a woodshed special. Philadelphia is the best team in football right now. I don't think there's any question about it. Jalen Hurts is the MVP, despite what Micah Parsons may say. Um, I think that Philadelphia is the most complete team. They really have no visible weaknesses right now. They have no weaknesses per se. They run the ball at a high level. Hurts is throwing the ball very well. Their defense is top notch. They I mean, they Serini and the coaching staff's done a tremendous job. They all around they're just no visible holes on that team. Um and they survived their first crisis, uh in season crisis, and they have the last 2 weeks they've been spectacular. They when they lost to Washington and struggled against Indianapolis, it was like, I don't know. Don't like the way they're playing right now, but the last 2 weeks they have been tremendous in these games, and they have like against they just have been overwhelming, and against Tennessee, against two good teams like Tennessee and the Giants are good, are solid football teams, not great but solid playoff caliber football teams. Even though they're going in different, they are those two teams are going in uh the wrong direction in Tennessee and the Giants, but they're still two solid teams, and they've embarrassed them. Even I mean, these games have been over at halftime over the last 2 weeks, and they're back to playing the type of football that they were playing that helped them start out uh 9-0. So they are back on that level right now, and they deserve to be. Frankly, if somebody they deserve to be the Super Bowl favorite. I mean, they deserve to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. To be honest with you, not by a lot, but like they are a complete team. They are. And if you look at the history of the Eagles, they don't waste these type of seasons. If they start out this playing this well, their no chances are they're normally going to the Super Bowl. They don't like you don't see them have like you will see Indianapolis back in Peyton Manning. You will see some teams like the Chargers when they were San Diego waste 13 and 14 win season on the '06 Chargers 14-2. Schottenheimer gets fired after that playoff loss against New England. You don't see that out of Philadelphia when they win 12 games, 13 games. Like I said, more times than not, over the course of the history of that franchise, they're either going to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, one of the two. At worst, conference championship. That's the baseline. So, big time win for them. They of course controlled their entire destiny division, number one seed, the whole ball of wax. I don't. I think that Dallas game is obviously is a big game. Probably won't decide the division. I thought Philly might lose one game before they meet Dallas. Now I'm starting to think that that's not going to be the case. So I think that they will have a cushion, even if in they will have a cushion on that December 20 on that Christmas Eve game, even if they were to fall to Dallas, that they will have enough cushion to where they can survive a loss to Dallas and still finish as the number one seed. So looking at the playoff picture right now, NFL has to love this. You have 18 of the 32 teams that realistically can make the playoffs. Now there are teams that had not been mathematically eliminated. I don't. If you're 5-8, I'm sorry, I can't take you serious. If you're 5-8, I just can't. Like a 5-8 team, right now, I don't see any 5-8 team that I would have confidence making the playoffs. So you look at the we'll start with the AFC. Look at the AFC right now. Buffalo's in control, but Buffalo is in control of their destiny based on the fact that they took out Kansas City earlier this season, so that game looms large. Um, we've been predicting this all season long. Baltimore, Cincinnati will decide the division. That game will decide that division. Both teams are 9-4. That game and that game will be at Cincinnati. That game is going to decide that division. Um, Tennessee better be careful. They better be careful right now. You have New England. You have the Chargers and Jets are right on their heels. They're not playing well at all right now. They better be careful. I think Miami will find a way to make the playoffs. So I think, to be honest with you, out of New England, well, New England's in the seventh spot right now. So out of New England, the Chargers and the Jets, um, I believe that hmm, Chargers, looking at the schedule, have Titans this week. Of course, that's a big game. Colts, Rams, Broncos. That's not a tough schedule. It's not. That's not. That is not a like. That's. I mean, the Rams, Broncos, Colts. The end of the season. They have a definite advantage from a scheduling standpoint. When you look at that, um, and they're starting to get healthy. New England Jets have Lions is a big game this week. They have the Seahawks, which will be another big playoff type game. They have the Lions, Jaguars. Jaguars are sneaky dangerous. They are. Like Jaguars play hard. That would not be an easy game. Jaguars, Seahawks, Dolphins. So that's a tough schedule. That's a very tough schedule down the stretch for the Jets. And New England has, let's see here, Dolphins this week. Dolphins, Packers, Patriots. Well, I'm sorry, I clicked on the Jets schedule. New England has Raiders, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills. I don't. The Bills probably will have to play for that because of Kansas City. Kansas City's going to try to get the one seed, so the Bills probably will have to play that game hard. Not. I mean, look, based on the schedule, I would have to say that Los Angeles has the advantage in terms of schedule from a schedule standpoint, but you never can, of course, completely trust the Chargers, here. But I think there's a chance there. Like I really think that there's a possibility that Tennessee completely falls out. Like right now, out of those playoff teams, right now Tennessee is going in the wrong direction. They are, and now when I look at their schedule, Chargers this week, Texans, Cowboys, Jaguars. That Jet. Do not dismiss that Jaguar game. Like don't and we know the Jaguars give the Jaguars have already did they I think they yeah the Jaguars just beat the Titans like last that would be that was one of my disappointments. Jaguars just beat the Titans this past Sunday. So yeah, they that the AFC is going to go down to the last day. I mean, both conferences are going to go down to the last day, but the AFC, that last spot, you have basically for the last two spots, 6 and 7 seed, you have one, two, three, four teams for two spots. As far as the NFC goes, a little more clarity at the top. Like Philadelphia, Minnesota, San Francisco have clearly separated. Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas have clearly separated themselves. Tampa Bay is only in that fourth spot because, of course, they are the division leader. Um, Carolina has been playing better of late, but I'd still probably lean towards Tampa Bay. The bottom half now, it's interesting in the bottom of the NFC because I thought that the Giant Washington game would be an elimination game this week in down in Landover. I don't think that's the case anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. And we'll talk more about the Seattle loss. That was a horrible loss to Seattle. Seattle lost, home loss to Carolina. You can't lose that game. Right now, Seattle is a half game behind the Giants and the Commanders and Giants. Uh, Detroit, remember, Detroit has beaten the Giants and Washington. So Detroit has like it's basically a 3-man race. I'm not even counting Green Bay. I'm sorry, Packer fans. I can't take you serious at 5-8 or Carolina at 5-8 unless they win the division. So I would say in the NFC you have 9 teams for 7 spots, and I think one or two things is going to happen. Two things probably one or two things is going to happen here. You're either going to have, I believe, all 4 NFC East teams make it, or I think the Lions are going to make it. I don't have any faith in Seattle right now. I just don't. I think that loss that's the type of loss that I think that could just cripple your season. I think that loss to Carolina will end up crippling their season. Like I have no faith in Seattle right now. I think we've seen the best out of Seattle. Um, yeah, I just don't trust Seattle at all right now. Again, that Washington Dallas, the Washington Giant game is a big time matchup. Washington has a brutal schedule. I mean, you're talking about they still have the Giants and San Francisco, and they still have Dallas too. So the Washington schedule is brutal down the stretch because I think Dallas probably will need the game. I think is Dallas the last game of the season. Yes. Now Dallas might not need that game. They might be locked in they might be locked into a third, a second spot or third spot, unless they really want to try hard for home field. And they will have home field. I'm sorry, they might be like if they don't have if Dallas doesn't have a chance to get home field in that last game, I think they will rest some guys. Again, Philadelphia is in the driver's seat. I think Philadelphia is going to end up with home field advantage. You'll have Minnesota, San Francisco, and Dallas. Well, you will have Minnesota and San Francisco battling it out for the second spot. Again, this is not like in the old days you were fighting for those first 2 spots for home field advantage, but that second spot is nowhere near as coveted without having that bye. So really, you'll see some teams. I think you'll possibly see some teams resting that last week. But the NFC, I mean, again, the NFC, both conferences have 9 teams for 7 spots. So the picture is basically clear at the top in terms of who's going to be in the playoffs. Right now, if you ask me who are locks to make the playoffs right now, I would say Buffalo's a lock. Kansas City is a lock. Um, I think Baltimore and Cincinnati are both locks. Uh, I don't think Miami's a lock right now. I once thought they were. I don't think they're a lock anymore. I would lean towards them, but I don't think I can see a scenario where the Chargers and Jets catch them. NFC, I would say Philly's a lock, Minnesota's a lock, San Francisco's a lock, Dallas is a lock. So, and of course the winner. I mean, somebody's got to win the AFC, the NFC North. So that team is a lock, of course, whether it be Tampa or whoever, Carolina, but the winner of the NFC South. But they're Philly, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Philly, Minnesota, San Francisco, and Dallas. So listen, this is what the NFL wants. Um, it should be some great football down the stretch. I'm still looking forward to that Dallas Philadelphia game. We'll talk more about this weekend's games. A lot of big games this weekend as you have a triple header on Saturday. So we'll talk more about that. But this is what the NFL wants. 18 out of 32 teams have a legit chance to make the playoffs. Stock up Kyle Shanahan's second straight week that his defense has put on a display that just completely taking a team out of offensively, completely taking them out. Hold Tampa Bay to 7 points. They held Miami last week in their explosive offense to 17 points. And second straight week they've lost one of their key players and haven't missed a beat. Last week it was Jimmy Garoppolo, and this week it was Debo Samuel. And that's coaching. I mean, that's all there is to it. Now both games were at home. That didn't hurt, but the bottom line is you lose your starting quarterback and your starting superstar receiver, and don't and the truck, the train keeps on rolling. You gotta give Shanahan a lot of credit. That team is mentally tough. They know who they are. They have a system. They play to that system. They don't care about yards. They don't care about trying to score a bunch of points. It's not about that. They are about physical football. They physically and mentally wear you out. Like they're trying to beat you into submission. They have a game that travels. And again, Christian McCaffrey he has rejuvenated the career of Christian McCaffrey on San Francisco. Now, again, we always knew McCaffrey had talent. He just couldn't stay on the field. So him being able to stay on the field could be one of the game changing trades that we look back on of 2022 if San Francisco is to go far, because that the way he could be utilized and with Shanahan's play calling like that, there's really no matchup for him. And when they it's just there isn't. You can't cover him with a linebacker. Um, he, like I said, he's a great one of the best pass receiving running backs in the league. Top three, top five pass receiving running back in the league easily. So I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit. They've had a lot of injuries over the course of the season. Like they've had a number of guys that have been out, and I'm talking all pro caliber players, big time players, like Pro Bowl caliber players, not just backup tight end here and there. And they have not missed a beat for the most part, and they've gotten stronger as the season goes along. That's coaching, and that's why this team is capable, despite the injuries, despite no Jimmy Garoppolo, of making a Super Bowl run. Do not be surprised if they're playing in the Super Bowl. Don't be. I'm serious. Do not be. And if I'm Philadelphia, the team that I would not want to see in the conference championship, not Dallas, not Minnesota, it would be San Francisco. I don't want to see that team in the conference championship. I don't. That's a team that I don't want to see. No, that's no excuse me. That's a team that I don't want to see in the division round. Conference championship, you expect to see the best of the best. San Francisco's a team that if I'm Philadelphia, or if I'm Philadelphia, I don't want to see them in the divisional playoffs. That cannot be my first game of the playoffs, assuming that Philadelphia does get a bye. Stock down Seattle. I also could have put Tennessee in this category as they got knocked around by Jacksonville. Thought they would be a little bit more motivated coming off a beat down at the hands of Philadelphia a week before last, but you know it was what it was. Seattle, you can't lose a home game and you're trying to make the playoffs against the Carolina Panthers. You just can't. Like Sam Darnold. Can you name five Panthers? Like I mean, like seriously, that team is they have some decent pieces on defense. I Yeah, Seattle, like they've tailed off over the last month. Geno Smith has cooled off enough. Their defense, like I don't know what happened to their defense. They had a nice stretch in the middle of the season. It has regressed back to what it was at the beginning of the season when they couldn't stop anybody. And they right now, like I said, are headed in the wrong direction. Like I said, I think that Seattle is going to make it easier for both the Washington and the Giants in terms of making the playoffs. I don't think Seattle's making the playoffs. Like I gave you the two scenarios I think that are going to occur. Either all four NFC East teams are going to make the playoffs, or the Detroit Lions are going to sneak up and make the playoffs. So I have no faith in Seattle right now. Um, they have gotten worse over the course of this season. And again, you cannot lose a home game in December to the Carolina Panthers. Who won the week? Justin Herbert. Just again, a special performance on Sunday night against a good team when his team needed it the most. They had to have that win to stay in the playoff race. And he was just spectacular. Like he was it was a virtuoso performance by a guy who has a chance to be in the conversation for best quarterback in the league in the next 2 to 3 years, easily. And it's either look, I don't know where this debate or this was not just one of these talking head manufactured debates. I I never I never thought about Tua versus Herbert. That never was it never that debate of who was better never entered my mind. I know they were drafted right next to each other, but okay, and they will be intertwined from that standpoint. But the bottom line, like from a talent standpoint, I like they just and you've watched them play quarterback, since they came to the league. I don't know what are we talking about here. Like the debate is Herbert versus Burrow. That's the debate, and you can go either way with those two. Like I'd be fine. You'd be fine with your franchise would be in great shape with either one of those quarterbacks, right? I think Herbert is slightly more talented than Burrow, but there's an intangible that Burrow has that Herbert has not shown as of yet. Possibly because the coaching is a little bit better in Cincinnati and franchise is a little bit more stable, just a little bit more, not that much. Cincinnati had been up until last year, had been a dormant franchise before they made that surprise run to the Super Bowl. But the Tua Herbert thing, that never was a thing. I don't know why that conversation was even brought up in terms of comparing them. Now they both in the same. Of course, they were drafted right next to each other in the draft, but okay, that like that. I I never. Again, I don't get the comparison, the comp, the comparison between those two talents, or this debate. Like when I was, when you hear on Sunday and Sunday night, early Monday morning, is the Tua Herbert debate finally over? I'm like, when was it ever? When did it start? Shit, like, I mean, again, like when they were drafted, you can ask that classic sports question: Who will be a better quarterback, Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa? Well, stay tuned and see. Yeah, you'll hear that, but once you see them play, it's like, okay, clearly this guy is much better, and the other guy is pretty good, and that's all you need to know. Like this game didn't tell me anything that I didn't already know. Put it to you that way. With all due respect to Tua, who's been spectacular this year, minus the last two performances for the most part. So Herbert wins the week, and yeah, Herbert wins the week without question. Um, Biggest disappointment against Seattle. You can't lose a home. You can't lose that game. Like you can't lose to just a miserable Carolina team that's going nowhere. You're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to even challenge for a division. So that was a terrible job by them. Um, no excuse whatsoever. So they're the biggest disappointment. Uh, Week 15, San Francisco, Seattle tomorrow night. These Thursday night games can be tricky. Last time they played, San Francisco handled them easily, and I don't expect that. I don't expect it to be any different. There might be a little bit more competitive, maybe, but San Francisco had basically a walkthrough in the second half of the Tampa Bay game. So I think they'll be relatively fresh for even though despite the fact that they are will have a short week. Miami Buffalo should be a big time game. Buffalo looks to continue its revenge tour on the division. The game is in Buffalo. Um, I think that I think Buffalo's physicality will be a little bit too much for Miami. Miami's in a little rut right now, and Buffalo is the wrong defense to try to break out that rut against. They've gotten Buffalo's defense over the last 2 weeks have gotten back to where they were for most of the season. That's a legit top two, top three defense. And they've got starting to get some guys back healthy, though they're still banged up with the safeties. and I know Von Miller, but I mean they had one of the deepest defensive lines in football. So I like Buffalo in this game. I would say like 24-17, 24-20, 27-20. I think it'll be relatively close. These are still rival. These are still a divisional game. Miami's coming off back-to-back losses, so they will be chomping at the bit to get back on track. But they're in the wrong. They picked the wrong time to have a slide, and this is the wrong team to go against in Buffalo. With snow on the horizon. Jets Detroit should be an interesting game. If I would have told you Jets Detroit Week 15, you would have laughed at me. You were like, "Why? What are we talking about here?" But that's why we watch. That's why the NFL is the NFL. Um, I like the Jets in this game. I think the Jets will be able to take apart Detroit from a physicality standpoint. This will be. Uh, I want to see Detroit play with some pressure. They haven't played with pressure all season long. Now Detroit has some real game pressure, some real season pressure, to where they're not going to sneak up on the Jets. They've already beaten the Giants, beaten Minnesota, beat the Packers earlier. You can just toss that Packer one aside, whatever. But they're not going to sneak up on the Jets, especially a team that they who are trying to make the playoffs and fighting for their playoff lives. I like the Jets in this going. I would say like 28, uh, 28-20, 28-21, 21. It'll be a relatively close game. Like I don't think the Jets offensively can be challenged, so they don't blow it. They're not going to blow out a decent team. But I think that I don't see Detroit sneaking up on the Jets at all. Tennessee, the Chargers, again, these are teams that probably more likely are going in opposite directions. Have no faith in Tennessee right now, especially from an offensive standpoint. They've gotten stagnated with their offense. Again, they Tennessee cannot play from behind. They're just not built that way. The difference at quarterback will be stark in this game, and I think the Chargers will. I'm not going. I like the Chargers 30. I would say 31-24, 31-23, that type of game. Washington, Washington, New York, the Giants, football Giants. Of course, we had the tie a couple of weeks ago on December 4th. A game that should have been a tie. Like, neither one of those teams deserved to win, so it should have ended in a tie. I like the Commanders in this one. I don't like the way the Giants are playing right now. Like Tennessee, they're heading in the wrong direction. I do think this will be a very, very close game. I do. I think the defenses will dominate this game. This will be one of those games where, minus somebody having a ridiculous amount of turnovers, who wins the rushing battle? The team that has the most rushing yards and the most rushes will win this game. It's just that simple to me. So I think Washington will run the ball just enough to get by the Giants. But again, this will be a very, very close game. Um, as it has been flexed as Sunday night game. So looking forward to that one. Um, any real thoughts before I let you go? We're talking about album of the year with Rob Sapp this past weekend. Um, and going through some of the albums, you see, you have Kendrick, you have Nas, with KD3, yeah, of course, Joey Badass, Corday early in the year. There's about 5 or 6 albums that you're gonna pick from. A lot of people, there are people, a lot of people like Freddie Gibbs' album. I didn't like that one, like it as much as his past albums, especially in the album of the year category. Like let's calm down on that one. The Jid album, it was just different. Like it was just like that album. No, the game had a great album. There was too many tracks on there. The Jid album is different. Man, it's different. Like I think it came out in July or late June, and I was on that the whole summer and even well into the fall. Like that album was just it's one of these albums that you can't stop playing it. Like I still play it now in December. Okay, certain tracks like you get the make you change with Ariana well, not Ariana, Ari Lennox, and like the most Def. I mean, they like again. It is a album that is just it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous album. I think without question now, the more I'm thinking about that, there's no question to me the album of the year. Like I just think that that was the best hip hop album I heard all year long. So that is my album of the year. Um, and we'll see. Well, of course, we'll see what wins out. With the Grammys and stuff. I don't even care about the Grammys. Whatever. We'll see what wins out. With the with the Hip Hop DX, some of these other places that give out those type of awards will think about it. But to me, for my money, the Jid album was the album of the year. Just consistently the most consistent album throughout the read. My whole thing is how many times did I read like the re-listen aspect of it, the playback aspect of it. Like that's the biggest how well has it aged over the course of the year. And this album has aged extremely well. And it's something I mean, again, it'll be an album I'll be playing going into 2023, to be honest with you. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. This podcast will be up tomorrow. Remember, I have a special podcast coming later this week. I will see you then. I'm out.